Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial on how to beat extreme heights. Extreme heights is a scenario in the expert category of the base game of RCT2. The goal is to get 4500 guests in your park and never let your park rating go below 700. This is the highest guest goal in the entire game. As expected from the name, the map is mostly covered in large mountains with some flatter areas near the corners. You start out with some paths, 2 stalls, a large twister coaster and about 160 guests. The ride selection is heavily focused on coasters. You start out with not too many different types, but you unlock quite a few extra ones with research. Furthermore, you have a few thrill rides, some water rides and a whole lot of stalls. This scenario is quite different from the others in this tutorial series, as here there is no such thing as money. You can do whatever you want without ever having to worry about going bankrupt. This has many implications, both positive and negative. The obvious positive aspect is that you can hire as many staff as you want, build huge coasters and mess around with the terrain as much as you like. The downside is that you cannot advertise, so you will have to attract all 4500 guests naturally. We will come back to this later. As you don't have to worry about money, all you have to worry about is the park rating, as having it too low for too long will end your playthrough. The goal says that you can never let it drop below 700, but it's not quite that strict. Once your rating drops below 700, you have 4 weeks to get it up again. If you don't manage to get your rating above 700 again within those 4 weeks, your park gets closed permanently and you fail the goal. However, if you do get your rating above 700, even if it's only for a single day, the counter resets. This condition only kicks in at the start of April year 1, so you have 1 extra month to get your rating up at the start of the scenario. You could complete this scenario by building a lot of large coasters that go all over the place and end up with a huge park, which is what most people do and also what I did the first couple of times that I played this scenario. However, with a park like this, you're much more vulnerable to guests getting lost and it takes forever. That is why we are going to use an easier and more systematic approach. This might be slightly less fun if you enjoy building your own coasters, but it's faster and more reliable, so it's a great method if you just want to get this scenario out of the way. We need to build a park with enough rides that we can attract 4500 guests without advertising. To explain how we're going to do this, I first need to explain what the soft guest cap is. Every ride contributes a certain value to the soft guest cap. A corkscrew coaster contributes 100, a go-kart contributes 55, a haunted house contributes 22 and so on. If the number of guests in your park is above this soft guest cap, the guest spawn rate is reduced by a factor 4. This means that to complete this park in a reasonable time, we want to have a soft guest cap that is higher than 4500. Advertising ignores this soft guest cap, which is why it is so powerful. The Giga Coaster and the Twister Coaster both contribute 120 to the soft guest cap, which is the highest of any ride. So ideally we want to use one of those. Luckily we have both types available. Since we already have a Twister Coaster at the start, we need to build 36 more to get the soft guest cap above 4500. The easiest way to do this is to flatten a large area of land and build a grid of the same compact coaster design. So, we need a design that guests want to ride and that is quite small. This is more difficult than it seems, as all guests in this scenario only want to ride rides with an intensity rating of 9 or higher. If they're very happy, this limit can drop to 6.7 intensity, but it is the safest to build rides with between 9 and 10 intensity. I have come up with this design. It is a twister coaster with a launch lift hill and 2 inversions. Usually it wouldn't be that intense, but I have set it to 6 laps, which gives it 12 inversions and an intensity rating of 9.67. It is important that the color of the track is bright purple, bright green, bright yellow or light orange. I'll let you know why that is later. You can see that I have built some path around the coaster. If you save the design with this path, you can very easily build them in a grid. You don't have to use this exact design, you can also build your own high intensity coaster if you prefer building one yourself. If you do want to use this design, a download for the track design is in the description. Now that we have our coaster, we can finally start the scenario. The first thing that you want to do is hire the maximum of 200 staff members. They don't cost any money and they keep the park rating high. A distribution of 140 handymen, 30 mechanics and 30 entertainers works well. The handymen clean up the park, the mechanics fix the rides and the entertainers keep the guests happy. Usually I don't use entertainers as I see them as a waste of money, but since there is no money they can be quite useful. Before we build our plateau to build the coasters on, we're going to fix the queue line of Flaming Fury. All you need to do is connect this path to the main path so that the queue line isn't connected to a dead end. Now it's time to create the plateau that we are going to build the coasters on. The area to the left of the entrance is a nice place to do this. I'm going to create a 60 by 60 platform that connects to the little plaza at the entrance. This will take a bit longer in Vanilla and Classic as you cannot make the landscaping tool this large, but since you start out with a fairly high park rating, you have plenty of time to do this. Once the platform is done, we're going to build some path in preparation for the coasters. We're going to build path along these two edges and connect both the entrance plaza and the food plaza to it. When this is done, we can start building our coasters. Since we saved the path with the design, there will automatically be a nice grid of path between the coasters when you build them. You need at least 36 of these coasters, which is a 4 by 9 grid, but I prefer to build a little more than necessary, so we will build 40 of them in a 4 by 10 grid. When all the coasters have been built and opened, all we have to do is maintain the park rating and wait. To keep the guests happy, we are going to build plenty of stalls. Since there's no money, we can spam them absolutely everywhere. Build lots of food stalls, drink stalls, toilets, info kiosk, first aid stalls and whatever else you like. You can even throw in a completely useless cash machine if you're feeling fancy. Next up, we're going to place some benches and bins on the path. This is probably not entirely necessary as any litter and vomit will be cleaned up pretty quickly anyway, but it never hurts and we have plenty of time. When that is done, all we have to do is wait. During this waiting period, we hope to get as many awards as possible. A positive award boosts your guest generation by 25% as long as it's active. You can have up to 4 awards active at the same time and the boosts stack. So, having 4 awards active at the same time multiplies your guest generation by a factor of 2.44. With all this stuff and the brightly colored rides, we're eligible for at least the safest park, best staff, most dazzling color scheme, best custom designed rides, best coasters and tidiest park awards. If you build a ton of stalls, you can potentially also get the best food and best toilet awards. You can also spam a lot of scenery for the most beautiful park award. After waiting for a couple of in-game years, which luckily didn't take very long thanks to the speedup function in RCT2, we complete the scenario. If you don't have the speedup function, you can just let it run for a few hours while you're doing something else. If you don't use this method of spamming small coasters, it will take a lot longer, although I must admit that it also results in more interesting parks. If you want to take a closer look at the park, the save file is in the description. If you still have trouble with the scenario despite following this guide, don't hesitate to ask me about it on Twitter or on Discord. I will happily take a look at your park to see what's wrong. That was it for this tutorial. If you want a tutorial on any scenario that wasn't in my top 5 hardest scenario video, let me know in the comments. Thank you all for watching and I will see you in the next video.